First off, like this video and subscribe.
Okay, we're back with a review or a recap of UFC 284. What you want to start with, the main card? Or let's start we can start the main event. Let's start the main event. It was a close fight. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a robbery, but I definitely think that they went the wrong direction with it.
I see what you're saying. I don't want to call it a robbery, but I do think that Alexander should have won. And the reason why I say that is people say that Alexander could did more on the feet, but when you're fighting against a wrestler who can take you down and just end the round on top of you, you have to get aggressive, but still not get too aggressive to where you end up in a bad situation like you did in the fourth round.
At some point when you're fighting a dangerous wrestler who only needs one takedown to secure a round, how good are you supposed to fight when you're winning on the feet and you're avoiding takedowns? Like, at what point are you supposed to do more against that style? And one thing we talked about was how wrestlers are able to use the cage to take you down, but yet you can't use the cage to defend the takedown.
Exactly, as in hold the fence.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy, but you made the point about Islam not being able to take Alexander down in the center of the cage, and he was pretty much using the cage to try to take him down. So once Alex was able to figure that out, he started walking Islam down, and you start to see a noticeable, tired, like less output version of Islam as the fight went on, and Alexander pretty much took over for the most part.
Yeah, then it was one round. I don't know which one it was, but after Alexander told his coach he's not as strong as I thought he was, and that's when Alexander started walking him down. I think it was between the second and third round, but he was like, he's not as strong as I thought he was.
Hey, something else that was odd was there were times where they were calling certain things that he did a knockdown against Alexander Volkanovski, and it wasn't a knockdown. It just, Alex took 2 or 3 steps back to get his footing, because if you get caught in the middle of a kick or moving forward and knock you off balance. But then there were times where Alexander actually caught Islam, but Islam spun it around into a takedown, and then they completely ignored the knockdown and started talking about, oh, the takedown, great job, which it was a good job for Islam. Don't get me wrong. You're not supposed to just get finished. But they were calling certain sequences a knockdown for Islam, but then the other times they would not score a knockdown for Alexander. I thought that was odd. And another thing that was odd, they scored terribly all night. If we go down the list of these prelims and leading up to this, the scorecards were all over the place. And I thought that if the fight was close, normally you give it to the person who is
hometown advantage.
Yeah, but which I'm not saying cheat for your person, but 9 times out of 10, if it's a close fight, the person,
there's certain factors involved in that, like the crowd can influence the judges and stuff. And it is what it is. Like, I don't want to come across as saying cheating or whatever, but that's just how it is in sports, man. Like,
yeah, every sport. But
one issue I don't have an issue with Islam winning. I have an issue with the 49-46, because that means there's nothing he could have done to win that fight.
Yeah, it was a close fight. Not saying that Alexander won just 50-45 or nothing like that, but for the way that the fight went down, I can see a case for both fighters, but with the damage that Alexander did and the fact that he was a smaller person, he was still doing more damage. And that's the whole point of the fight, is to do damage, to inflict the most amount of damage while receiving the least amount of damage. That's the whole point of fighting across combat sports. And Alexander did that. But to say 49-46 just basically means that, like, what round did they even give Alex if that was the case? What round was that? Do we know?
I don't know, man. It's just weird.
So they saying that their whole fight, Alex won 1 round.
Yeah, that's why.
And he lost a split decision.
That's why I didn't look into it, because it was kind of sketchy, man. 49-46. There's no point in looking into it.
Because he won at least 2 rounds clearly. So to lose a split decision when you won at least 2 rounds clearly and somebody didn't even give you but 1 round, that's so odd, man.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Islam did look bad in this fight.
And he showed he had some dog in him.
And he showed he had a lot of heart. He showed that.
But he also showed he had some vulnerabilities too, man. Any fighter who can stuff the takedowns, and that's easier said than done. And if they can get him to the second round, third round.
I hate to say this, man, but you said something earlier before we started this conversation that Alexander would have beat a lot of lightweights that night. Yeah, but it's funny because I don't think any of the other lightweights could implement that game plan on Islam. So I think Islam is going to be safe for a while at lightweight. If, you know,
obviously he's going to avoid Fiziev.
Yeah, I know he's definitely rooting for Justin Gaethje to win against Fiziev, so he don't have to worry about.
But the thing is, they say Islam was so dominant, and he was so.
Was he the person they said was dominating Luke Rockhold in training?
Yes, he was dominating a lot of other guys too, man. From what I heard.
Yeah, but I'm like, is Volkanovski still underrated? I don't think that Islam is the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world after this. I hate to say it, man, but This fight reminds me of Gilbert versus Kamzat, man, where Kamzat won, but I think that the fight was much closer than the scorecards would show you. And it ain't that Kamzat looked bad.
Yeah.
It ain't that Islam looked bad. They didn't. They both look good. But I just don't think they won those fights, man. Just based off damage, actual damage.
But do you think this fight going to affect Alexander's next fight?
No.
In the featherweight division?
No, because what he did to Islam tonight lets me know he can definitely beat Yair. And speaking of Yair, man, he embarrassed Josh Emmett, man.
Josh reverted back to the horrible Josh.
But he never looked that bad, though. I was going to say, what horrible
He did
Josh?
look bad, man. Like in the second round.
He was hurt, though. That body shot. He
done. Was hurt, but he was throwing Hail Mary punches.
He was done. Did you see the slow motion, the replay after round one, where they showed all the body kicks that landed? He was done. Like,
but he didn't have a game plan to stop the...
I don't know if he thought the body kicks was going to be that much of a weapon. I thought that maybe he thought the spinning, jumping, high kicks, the knockout blow. You see, I think that he maybe thought that Yair would focus on those kicks to the, the knockout kicks, man, the high kicks.
Yeah.
But, man, he went to the body, and then he was mixing up. Then he would throw kicks, and then, the Johnny Walker thing he did on Paul Craig?
Yeah.
The kick to the punch. The throwing the kick and going into the punch. Man, it was just too much, man. And then Josh, man, he known for having beautiful boxing and the right hand. He only was throwing the right hand, and he was loading up on it, and Yair was doing whatever he wanted to do.
And that's what hurt him, because this essentially was a boxing versus kickboxing
It
match.
wasn't even boxing versus kickboxing. It was a kickboxer versus a right hand.
But even still, even if you would do the jab more, man, like I would like to see Josh throw leg kicks.
That's what, yep.
I see what you're saying.
Throw
the
front
left
kick,
hand.
hit every now and
Say if
then.
you would have incorporated the left hand, the jab a little bit more,
Feints.
but then threw the leg kicks,
feints, anything. Like he was just backing up, dude. You know what he looked like? He almost looked like when Tyron Woodley used to do that, where he would just back up and then try to explode with the right hand, and people see it coming a mile away.
That, man, I hate to say this. I thought you were gonna say Tuivasa in his last fight, man. He just kind of really just ducked down with just throwing the right hand.
I don't know if that was Josh's game plan, because with a 5-round fight, you kind of have to switch your game plan around to make it fit for 5 rounds. But I don't know if Yair just looked that good, or
and then at the end of the first round, Josh uncharacteristically of him got real aggressive. And it's like, bro, what do you? I guess he got hurt, man. I guess he was trying to end it. But
trying to go out on the shield. But man, speaking of going out, man, I like Randy Brown, and we real high on Jack Della Maddalena, but I picked Randy Brown because I thought the experience would kick in. But man, he was doing all this weird showboating stuff, and he looked good for the first 2 minutes. But then all the weird stuff, and Jack kept his composure.
But I said that before the fight, my prediction, I said it seems like Jack can keep his composure a little bit better. I didn't say those exact words.
But I didn't know Randy was going to showboat. Because he didn't showboat against nobody. He didn't showboat against...
Showboat not the issue, man. The issue is you got to move around more.
I know, but he got caught against the cage because he was playing around too much. The little, whatever that, what they call it, the bull and the matador thing, the little thing he was doing. And then he did that, and he went back against the cage and got caught. And I'm like, bro, I didn't bet on you to do that.
See, Randy got to do, but he got to work on that, man. Because Vicente was able to get him against cage and do something similar, but it was weird because he survived Chaos Williams.
I just don't understand.
But I know Chaos, he don't set up his knockout punches. He just throw them.
The thing is, man, not to dive too deep into this, I wouldn't call Randy Brown a 50-50 fighter yet, because I was thinking it, but because he wins a lot more fights than he loses. But he's starting to turn into, like, I hate to say it, man.
Neil Magny?
No, almost like a low IQ fighter, which is like a fighter who, no matter what they do, they find a way to lose. And they lose in odd ways to where when you go back and watch the fight, they really didn't have to lose. But on the same token, Jack is everything that we thought he was and more. And now that I know that Sean Brady pulled out of the Michelle Pereira fight, I would actually like to see Jack step in and get that big fight, and for Jack to go on to bigger fights. I think the sky's the limit for Jack, man, at this point. I've been saying
that. I said it before the fight. But this is the thing, man. Like, we can't just look at this as if this was a bad performance by Randy Brown.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
When it's all said and done, Jack might be in top 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would like to see Randy. You said he was throwing kicks, but when I say throw kicks, I mean it's a certain type of spamming kicks you got to throw if you Randy Brown. It's front kicks, you got to stay on the outside at all times.
Which we saw he made one.
The thing is, but Randy, you have to get this fight to the ground. You have.
On your terms.
There was no way I thought Randy could stand up with this guy for 3 rounds. Because the thing is, Jack is real patient, and he's real, like, even though...
Calculated.
How old is he? How old is Jack, man?
I don't need
But to say he's 28? How old is Jack?
26.
To say he's 26, he has the patience of somebody who's older.
Like he can control his
But
heart
the thing
rate,
is,
man.
yeah, he does that. But then whenever he feels his opponents are slowing down, it's over. There's nothing they can do.
Hey,
He gonna walk him down and finish him.
Jack is a special talent, man. I like the idea that Randy had learned from his losses and was getting better. And I didn't think a loss would hurt Jack here. And the sky was still the limit for him. But, man, Jack can go on and do some big things, man. And Randy, man, the decision-making. But, speaking of this bad decision-making.
Speaking of big things and bad decision-making, man, Parker Porter could have stayed at home last night.
I think he might think he is at home right now because he definitely don't know where he is, maybe even to this moment. He had one thing to look out for, and that was rushing in on Justin Taffa and getting caught with a counter. And he managed to do exactly that.
That's why I said in the prediction video, I said, I thought Parker was going to win a decision, but at the same time, remember I said sometimes he get overly aggressive with the hands. And
to say you don't really have hands.
His hands okay. It ain't the best, it ain't the worst. But I've seen worse. We done seen way worse hands than Parker. But sometimes, Jared beat Justin, so that's weird, bro. It's just so weird, man. But you lost to somebody who lost to Jared Vanderaa.
They only got one way to win, and you managed to give them just that.
But the thing is, yeah, bro. But that's why I said sometimes Parker can get too aggressive with the hands. But speaking of aggressive, man, Alonzo, man,
it was a good fight. They took a point away. I will say the thing is, man, we saw people commit fouls all night long in fights that the foul could have switched the momentum of the fight. And normally you get a warning, but then they just immediately took a point away. I was like, man, that's odd because at the same time, all night people did certain things and people had to get a 5-minute break or whatever. I think a few people actually got kicked low twice, and they still didn't take a point away. So that was odd, but that was a good fight. Jimmy showed that he didn't want to go out there and get knocked out again like he did against Jamal Hill, but boy, he definitely did get dropped and hurt a whole bunch. But then Alonzo got out grappled, man. But he put a lot into trying to finish Jimmy a few times. That can wear at you. So I think that was a good outcome because they both deserve to walk away with not holding an L. It was a good fight for both guys, and it showed that they both got a lot of work to do. I think it may have shown the ceiling for both guys at the same time. I hate to say it. I don't think Jimmy Crute going to be working his way up to a Jamal Hill rematch ever.
I would like to see Alonzo get more aggressive on the feet because there were certain times where he had Jimmy. At one point, he had Jimmy against the cage, and the cage was holding Jimmy up. And then if he would just landed 1 or 2 punches.
And there was times where Alonzo stuffed takedowns, and then he just completely got back up and reset instead of just
taking his back,
spinning around and taking it back and taking advantage.
But he tried to a couple times. I don't know if Alonzo's arms too big or Jimmy was too big. Yeah. These two big guys you're talking about. We ain't talking about no.
Speaking of big guys, man, Modestas took a fight on a week's notice, man, and for some reason, Tyson Pedro looked god awful, man. I don't know what was going on. I think he was injured, man. That's what I was tweeting.
It looked like something would be a robbery. Yeah, it just, I don't know, man. Uncharacteristic of him. He was kind of putting his hands down. He wasn't even active on the feet.
His walking, like his movement, he looked injured. But Modestas, he showed up on short notice, man, and he got the call. He got the job done. So hopefully it ain't no big injury with Tyson because that would suck. But then, man, Melsick went out there and got submitted. And just, it wasn't a whole lot of action, man, but Joshua, man, for him to put Melsick away like that was crazy. I didn't have that on my bingo. I'm not going to lie. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Josh did what Alonzo should have done. Josh did what Alonzo should have did, man. Took his back and just got him out of there.
Speaking of getting somebody out of there, man, Clayson didn't waste no time getting Shannon Ross out of there,
and it's weird because he didn't get no bonus.
I know. Maybe because it wasn't like a super spectacular finish. It was...
I disagree.
It wasn't like a highlight reel finish. I
understand what you're saying. I think it was.
In the eyes of the UFC, that's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, but how often do we see flyweight knockouts?
I know.
And it's funny because they're talking about, it's not like a lot of contenders or exciting fighters in the flyweight division, and then you get a performance like that, man.
And you don't reward it.
Because Clayson normally don't fight like that, man, but he got aggressive, he got the job done. I wish he would have got rewarded for it. I mean, that's my only thing.
Speaking of, I would say one other fight that really just stood out, man, was what's this girl's name, man?
Oh, yeah, girl.
Her name looked different from what they were saying yesterday. That's her nickname, Loma. Man, she was tearing Elisa's legs up at the beginning of the fight and then got taken down and controlled at the end of the first round. Second round comes out, pick the girl up, dump her on her head, suplexes her, and then chokes her out in 45 seconds, something like that.
And the way this fight was looking, man, it looked like she was going to get the finish on the feet too, so...
Man,
Lisa Reed might be happy to take that submission loss, man.
Yeah, man. And then it looked like the bonuses went to Yair. He got a performance of the night. Della, Maddalena got a performance of the night. And the main event got a bonus. But Jimmy Crute and Alonzo deserved the bonus. And Clayton probably deserved the bonus too.
We were saying this before the fight, man. I know the fight of the night is not around no more, but they definitely deserve fight of the night.
Yeah.